Daniel Radcliffe is really trying to shed his Harry Potter image, but man, is that going to be tough. Even with devil horns, a snake slithering all over him, and some serious black comedy, it may not be enough. But let me tell you about horns so you don't have to muggle your way through. As the plot gets rolling along, we see Radcliffe's character Ig in love with his beautiful girlfriend Marin, and let me tell you, she's a real keeper. But this is all flashback, and we actually see that Marin's been killed. Some Dementor bludgeoned her to death, and everybody thinks that Ig did it. This of course gets him in a real Hufflepuff. I mean, his parents don't believe him, the press is hounding him, and finally he's like, Quidditch, leave me alone! And while I won't spoil the ending, we basically see this entire time, Ig has been a Diagon in the rough. Quaffle. I actually do really respect Radcliffe's choices to do darker, more dramatic work, and nudity with horses on stage. But Radcliffe isn't the only one trying to escape a reputation, as Joe Hill, the writer of the book on which Horns is based, has some big shoes to fill. Joe Hill, born Joseph King, is actually Stephen King's son. Joe Hill, huh? Couldn't think of a more white bread name like Johnny Ryder or Samuel Caucasian? Clearly he's trying to escape his father's shadow, and I applaud him for that, but I can't help but notice that the first feature film based off one of his works reminds me of Daddy. It has a real middle-of-the-road budget feel to it, and considering that the themes in Horns deal with sin, temptation, religion, and good versus evil, I'm reminded of movies like Needful Things and The Stand. In a lot of ways, though, that's actually being unfair to Joe Hill, the story, and the film. Does it feel middle-of-the-road budget? Yes, but only because it doesn't really have an all-star cast or a big-name director attached. While I can't defend director Alexandre Aja's filmography with horrific horror like The Hills Have Eyes, Piranha 3D, and Mirrors, I can defend his cast. Sure, aside from Radcliffe, there's no real A-lister. But sometimes I'll gladly take a supporting cast full of solid B-listers. They may not be household names, but the lovely Juno Temple is obviously having a great year with this film, Sin City and Maleficent. The Social Network's Max Minghella plays Ig's best friend, and great veteran character actor Joe Anderson plays Ig's brother. Best part of this cast? Radcliffe, Minghella, and Anderson, all Brits, but all do amazing American accents. Those three aforementioned characters are shown in several flashbacks as innocent children growing up with Ig, and if we didn't get the crucial performances from the adult actors, then we wouldn't have the juxtaposition of how dark the adult versions are. Now this is crucial because with these characters, it really reflects the theme of the loss of innocence, and it no longer is just a film about a guy who grows horns. These dark adults, these sinful characters, they create some really hilarious moments, and some really dark moments. These were some of my favorite moments within the film. When Ig starts to grow the horns, people start confessing everything their heart desires, and acting without inhibition. In these scenes you get all the sins. Another childhood friend eats 6 donuts and represents gluttony. His brother with his drug problem and inability to act represents sloth, and the local cops represent lust. I won't go into detail. Even Heather Graham has a cameo to represent pride, and these scenes are great because they really represent what the film is all about, and I'm not just talking about the religious theme. Some of these moments, some of these sins are hilarious, some are very dark, and some are so over the top they're borderline unwatchable, and I'm sure more than a few audience members were lost and couldn't quite put their finger on what kind of movie Horns is. Remember though, this is the director that brought you Piranha 3D. That film had exactly 2 layers, tits and killer fish. Something tells me he can't even spell the word subtle. If I was going to compare it to anything, it would be the films of Sam Raimi. Sometimes it's hilarious, sometimes it's frightening, and sometimes it's so in your face you want to push the movie away. But Raimi can be a very misunderstood filmmaker, and he's basically a love him or hate him kind of director. Even that comparison is unfair, as Horns, for the first time in a long time, was a movie that kept me guessing. Some people may see this as a downside. It's not a perfect film, there are plot holes, and perhaps that's why it had me guessing. However, constantly this year I have reviewed films that strive for originality, but they either fall right off the tracks like Lucy, or fall back on cinematic tropes like John Wick. And if you're going to fall back on the same old, why even bother trying different new? I have to give credit to Joe Hill for creating a fun concept. I have to give credit to Daniel Radcliffe for trying to be edgy. And I have to give credit to Aja for creating his most layered and complete film. While it may not be a perfect film, it is a lot of fun. It's dark, it's twisted, it has a great mystery, and it's definitely the most successful attempt at originality I've seen all year. It's an earn it. I'm sure some of you noticed that there was no For the Win this episode. I was close to giving it to David Morse, as I believe that this underrated character actor is just that, one of the most underrated actors out there today. But instead, I'm giving it to the film. More studios and filmmakers need to take chances like these. Be more unapologetic. Don't look back. It doesn't always work, but I salute those who try. You can tell that unfortunately, that's not always rewarded, as the studio released Horns last year at TIFF, and since it's been released on demand and in limited release. All I can say is if you can see this film, see it, support it. Poll question, what is your favorite movie that features heaven and hell? As always, leave your answers in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe to Real School, follow us on Twitter, and of course, don't forget about Real School's Patreon campaign. But until next time, school's out.